Go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Board of Behavioral Sciences meeting on November 29th at the Hyatt Regency Orange County, 11999 Harbor Boulevard, Plaza Terrace, Garden Grove, California, 92840, and it is 8:32. So with that, would you please establish a quorum?
Good morning. Gabriel Lamb.
Here.
Deborah Brown.
Here.
Jonathan Maddox.
Here.
Dr. Christine Whitlisbach.
Here.
Betty Conley.
Here.
Dr. Peter Chu.
Here.
Christina Wong.
Here.
Dr. Leah Brew.
Here.
Vika Stout.
Here.
Alexander Kim.
Here.
And for the record, Max Disposti is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And I will ask that the board members introduce themselves, please, starting with Gabriel.
My name is Gabriel Lam. I'm an LCSW member.
My name is Deborah Brown, and I'm a public member.
My name is Jonathan Maddox. I'm an MFT member.
I'm Christine Whitlisbach. I'm a public member.
Betty Conley, LEP member.
Peter Chu, public member.
Christina Wong, LCSW member. Leah Brew, LPCC member.
Vika Stout, MFT member.
Alexander Kim, public member.
Okay, and before we move into our hearing, is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, are there any suggestions for future agenda items? All right, then I'm going to turn it over to Judge Belvedere to begin our petition hearings.
Okay, good morning to everybody. As she said, my name is Kimberly Belvedere, and I'm the administrative law judge today. My job today is to basically control the procedure of the hearings, and if there's any legal issues. I am not a decision maker on any of your cases. It will be the board's decision. The way this usually works is we will have everybody come up and present their case. The Deputy Attorney General's here. Sometimes they will make an opening and a closing argument. They may ask you some questions. At some point during the case, the board may have some questions for you. And then if you have any exhibits or anything you intended to present, normally we should have them by now. We have had occasions where people bring something the day of. So if you've done that, we will deal with that at that time. So what we're going to do is we're going to call them in the order that you have them on the agenda, unless for some reason the board needs to depart from that agenda. So the first case is Esteban Gonzalez. And you're hearing me okay, right? You're hearing me okay? Okay. Okay, so Mr. Gonzalez, what we're going to do, we're going to have you present your case. This is a petition, I believe, for modification of probation.
Correct.
Okay, so you have the burden of proof, and this goes the same for all petitioners. Since you are the ones bringing the petition, you have the burden of proof in these cases. What that means is that it's your burden to present enough evidence to show that the board should do what you're asking them to do. Okay? So, Mr. Gonzalez, given that you have the burden of proof, normally we would have you go first. However, in cases like this, it helps to have the Deputy Attorney General present their opening statement first, if there is one, so that the board understands what the basis is for this case. So do you have any objection if we proceed that way?
No.
No? Okay, then if we could have you identify yourself, sir?
Yes, good morning. Robert Tomlin White, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California, pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522. And in Mr. Gonzalez's case, I would just offer a basic summary of facts and then turn it over to petitioner, given it's the petitioner's burden to establish their cause for modifying probation. And in this case, it appears that Mr. Gonzalez suffered a conviction for possession of controlled substance in April 2016 in on March 13th, 2017, an accusation and statement of issues was filed. The board adopted a stipulation pursuant to that accusation and statement of issues that instituted a 5-year probationary term. That stipulation became effective on September 20th, 2017. I would note from the petition that it appears that psychological evaluation was completed on February 9th, 2018. Petitioners compliant in quarterly reporting, fully compliant to dependency support, compliant up to June 5th, 2018 in remedial education, as well as in biological fluid testing, cost recovery, and as well as standard conditions, including quarterly reports and reimbursement costs. And at this time, Your Honor, I would like to introduce exhibits in the petitioner's packet. I would note at the outset that exhibits 3 and 4 require protective order, and under California Code of Regulations Title I, Section 1030, and Government Code 11517.
And what are 3 and 4?
3 and 4 are psychological evaluation, as well as, I believe, the quarterly reports there too.
Okay, so it won't be issued today, but at some point I will issue a protective order on this case and send it to the parties. What that means is that, Mr. Gonzalez, is that your psychological evaluations, if anybody ever requests public records from this, those won't be available to the public.
Okay.
So that request is granted.
Thank you, Your Honor. That having been addressed, I would offer Exhibit 1, which is the actual petition for modification and probation.
Okay, any objection, Mr. Gonzalez?
I'm sorry, what is the question?
What he's doing is he's offering Exhibit 1, which is your petition for evidence. So in order to have the board be able to consider it, it has to be accepted into evidence.
Okay.
Okay, so Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Yes.
Exhibit 2 is the stipulated settlement and accusation that we'd like to also offer into evidence, Your Honor.
Okay, any objection?
No.
Okay, Exhibit 2 is admitted.
And Exhibit 3, again, with the request for protective order, is a psychological evaluation with hearing-specific release of information.
Okay, any objection?
No.
Okay, Exhibit 3 is admitted.
Exhibit 4 is the psychotherapy quarterly reports that we'd like to offer into
Okay,
evidence.
any objection, Mr. Gonzalez?
No objection.
Okay, Exhibit 4 is admitted.
Exhibit 5 is notification of hearing to the petitioner.
Okay, and that's a jurisdictional document, so Exhibit 5 is admitted, and Exhibit 6 looks like it's your license and registration history, and that's usually something, because I can take official notice of that, so Exhibit 6 is admitted. Okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, Mr. Gonzalez, would you like to make an opening statement, or would you just like to proceed with your testimony?
I would like, what would be the difference? Sorry.
Well, the difference is an opening statement is not evidence, and since you're representing yourself, you basically would be repeating yourself. But I ask you only because procedurally you are allowed to make an opening statement if you want.
Okay, no.
No? Okay, so go ahead and raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and court reporter, just so you know, I tend to have most of my hearings taped, so I tend to speak very fast. If I'm speaking too fast for you, feel free to interrupt me and let me know to slow down. Forgot to tell you that. Are we doing okay so far? Okay. So, Mr. Gonzalez, you've brought this petition for modification of probation. What do you think you need to tell the board in order to have them find in your favor?
So I'd like to, first of all, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to sit in front of you and speak. This process for myself has been a rather challenging one, and also a lesson that I needed to learn about myself and my character. I learned that reverting back to past behaviors of what I did as a younger adult is not something that I need to do now as an older and more older adult than what I was. This has been very humbling for me as well too, knowing that everything that I've worked hard to attain to get to this point in my life could also be taken away just as quickly. And knowing that just being able to have the opportunity to continue to practice, continue to work in my profession, and with these restrictions, I was very grateful to continue to have this opportunity. I love my job. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with, the people that I work for. And I feel that in this experience, it has taught me to be more empathetic with the clients that I serve. And also know that that I would never do anything like this again to put myself in this situation. I've learned a lot about myself knowing that using of drugs, alcohol is not something that is going to help me achieve the goals that I have for myself in my life. In the past year, there have been opportunities for me to engage in participating in those acts, such as weddings, holidays, difficult situations that have going on through my life that previously, in order to cope, would be to drink. With the support of friends and family, I'm now able to outwardly approach them and speak about these difficult scenarios that I have going on, and know that I don't need to go to liquor store or grocery store and pick up a six-pack or whatnot and drink, or to go and look for the controlled substance that I did have. Speaking with the therapist that I see, learning about myself to recognize these feelings, emotions, and thoughts that I'm having, and being able to effectively discuss those within myself and within my supportive circle, I know that I wouldn't put myself in a position again where it would lead me down, where I am disrespecting you guys as a board, disrespecting my family, disrespecting my clients, my job, myself. I know that if given an opportunity, I will continue to learn from this experience, and continue to grow as an individual and also as a therapist. One of the reasons why I am making this petition is because financially there's been a burden on my life. I live in San Diego. The cost of living in San Diego is pretty outrageous. I work at a community-based mental health clinic where compensation is not necessarily the greatest. And so having the financial burden of doing the drug tests, the labs, the therapy, it makes it very challenging for me to have for me to pay my bills, essentially. I am requesting a modification on the therapy, just as a reduction from weekly to once a month. I really would like to continue seeing the therapist that I see. I feel that meeting with him has been been a huge part of my life for the past year, and I think that with continued support from him and continuing to learn about myself and how to manage the challenges that I experience in my life would still be beneficial for me, and so that's something that I would still like to continue. It would just be a reduction of what I'm seeking for as far as how frequent I would see him. With the tests, I have not failed a test. And there was one time where I failed to check in on time for a test. I did let my probation monitor know as soon as I found out that I checked in late, and I went voluntarily to go do a test myself without being told so, to show to the monitor that I was not being delinquent purposely. And I've made sure to put parameters set up for myself to make sure that I don't fail those check-ins. I have 3 alarms to remind myself that I need to check in, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon and 1 right before 5 o'clock, so I know that not to fail to check in. This is something that I take very seriously in part of my life, and something that I've grown accustomed to for the past year. And so I know that going through this experience is not something that I'm going to forget or take lightly. And if you guys grant me this petition for reduction, I promise I won't let you guys down. Thank you.
Briefly, do you believe that you either currently or previously had a problem with drugs, alcohol?
I know I would use it to cope with difficult situations going on in my life, and I noticed that early on, probably in my early 20s, was when, thinking back through therapy, when the use started. So yes, to answer your question, in the past I believe that I did. Now, with going to therapy, recognizing how it's impacting my life and my career, I am establishing and have established new ways of coping with those challenges, so I don't go back to using drugs and alcohol.
Do you currently consume alcohol at all or take any medications?
No.
None at all?
None at all.
And you've mentioned coping, so what are your current coping mechanisms?
So I speak with friends that I've known for at least 15 years. My family is a huge support for me, my mom and my sister, my brother. I exercise regularly. I play my guitar. I listen to music. I write. And I feel that those have been helpful for me in managing these difficult life circumstances that I'm going through and currently going through right now.
Okay, and you're asking, as I gather, for financial reasons to reduce your current therapy regimen. Can you explain the benefits of that therapy?
Of reducing the therapy?
Well, I guess to clarify my question, I would like to know 2 things. One, the benefit of the therapy itself,
Mm-hmm.
and how you could explain to the board that you will still gain that benefit,
Mm-hmm.
even though you're asking to have that therapy reduced.
Mm-hmm. So the benefit that I've received from therapy is essentially giving me that opportunity to have my... This is actually the first time that I've experienced therapy, that I've gone through therapy. And so being able to have that additional outlet when there are times where I don't feel comfortable speaking with my family or my friends about what's going on, and I know that I can have a therapist who would be there to give their, not their opinion, but having someone who is unbiased and non-judgmental, and being able to talk to them about things that are real to me, where at times if I feel like I'm going to speak to my friends or my family, and having that idea that there could be judgment there. And for the financial reasons, because therapy is not necessarily the easiest thing to pay for, I would still feel like I would benefit from meeting with him at a lesser frequency, because that person will still be there, and I'll still be able to talk to them about what's going on with me. It's merely for the financial purposes of being able to have that reduction, but I still feel that the benefit would be there.
Okay, so to follow up on that briefly, sounds like you have other mechanisms of self-help, such as your friends and your family, exercise, and music. Are your friends and your family, are they located nearby? Are they accessible to you?
Yeah, actually my sister just recently moved from Seattle back to San Diego, and my mom also lives in the San Diego County area as well as my brother. So they are easily accessible. Also text messages, phone calls, they're on my favorites list, so they're one click away.
Okay, and a final question that I'll ask you, then I believe the board will have some questions, is what assurances can you provide the board that if you are granted a reduction of drug testing and individual therapy, that there will not be a repeat of the misconduct that got you here in the first place?
Yeah. Recognizing when I'm getting placed in those situations where reverting back to those old habits would be, where reverting back to those old habits would become present. Being able to use these strategies and mechanism skills that I've learned in the past year, reminding myself of this process that I've gone through for the past year, and holding true to myself, and knowing that for the life that I want to live, for the quality of life that I want to live, that picking up something to drink or trying to find another substance to use is not going to be in the best interest for my career, for my life. Because all it takes is one time, and I could mess up my life, I could mess up somebody else's life, I could lose everything, and I don't want to lose anything anymore.
Okay, and I just have one last question. When was the last time you did consume alcohol? Or
September 1st, 2017.
Okay. And I have no further questions.
Okay, so now we'll open it up to the board. So we'll start on my right. Excuse me, I didn't hear
2017.
So when you're asking your questions, if you could just identify yourself by name and if you're a public member or an industry member, and then we'll just go board member by board member, and they'll have some questions for you.
Okay.
Hi, Esteban. My name is Gabriel Lam. I'm an LCSW member. I just want to know what kind of client population you work with.
So I work with the SMI population down in San Isidro, California, about 2 exits away from the international border. I've worked there for the past 5 years. It's the severe persistent mental illness, so severe depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, personality disorders, substance use disorders. I started there as a case manager, as a temporary staff member, and through the course of 5 years I've worked my way up the ranks, and I'm now the assistant director of the clinic. I oversee 30 staff members, and our clinic caseload is a little bit less than 600 clients. It's a second home for me because I've been there for so long. The clients that have been there, I have relationships with them as far as when I see them in the hallway, we greet each other. They know me by name, I know them by name. And I really enjoy working there, and I don't see myself working anywhere else right now.
Is it inpatient?
It's an outpatient program.
Outpatient. I noticed here that you mentioned when you got pulled over by the highway patrol and they found substances in you.
Yes.
You had just passed your examination for the license?
I had taken my examination. I wasn't aware if I had passed it or not.
Okay. So I'm wondering if you were celebrating that you had taken the exam. You didn't. You just answered my other question. You didn't know you had passed yet, but were you celebrating or you were just
As
partying?
far as like where I was at when I got pulled over,
Mhm.
I went to the Coachella Music Festival, and in part, yes, I was celebrating because of the stress that I was going through as far as studying for the examination, and that was one of the ways that I celebrated.
How are you celebrating your successes now?
Getting together with family and friends. It's, you know, being around them and not having to indulge myself in either drinking alcohol or using other substances, being present with them in the moment. I noticed that I enjoy myself a lot more when I'm sober around them, because I'm able to be fully present and aware of just the experience of being in the moment with them.
Thank you. No more questions.
I just have a quick question. How long have you worked for your current employer?
My current employer, I've worked there for 5 years. I started in July of 2013. The current position that I have as assistant director, I started in May of 2016.
In May of 2016?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
I have a few questions. So I'm wondering, because you are very early in your probation period, and you're asking for reduction in some of your required probation requirements, can you talk about what you've learned so far about the source of your use of drugs and or alcohol that supports why you're requesting a reduction? Like, what have you learned about why you used? You know, what's the underlying benefit? What was the benefit for you? What have you learned so far?
The underlying benefit was initially to have an escape. I noticed through the course of therapy and kind of taking away some of the layers is that a lot of my use started when my parents separated, and I was in my early 20s when that happened, and it was very difficult for me to go through. I felt like I didn't have support at that time. I felt like I didn't know who I could turn to and talk to. The people who set a precedence and example for me of what a relationship is supposed to look like was, I found out later on, not real at all. And it was very difficult for me to go through that. And finding that joy in using the substances led me to continue to use on a regular basis, not a daily basis or monthly basis, but it was something that I would use regularly. And through the course of this past year, finding other ways to have that, find that joy within myself again, without having to revert to using to a substance, a controlled substance, whether it's alcohol or any other substance. And being able to be comfortable within myself, for myself, is something that I'm continuing to learn and feel like I feel like I'm making progress, and I feel like I can continue down this tread that I'm going down.
Thank you. So it sounds like a lot of your drug and alcohol use was related to sort of probably medicating some of the pain from the family separation. Also just sort of managing some of the overwhelming affect that sort of would have accompanied that. And so rather than reaching out to supports, just sort of using the drugs and alcohol helps you sort of maintain and just kind of continue to move forward. So I guess my next question would be, you're pretty early in your therapeutic relationship with your therapist. And you mentioned that you found therapy to be very helpful because there are times when you can't talk to family or friends, that your therapist would be the person that you could actually go and have a safe place to sort of process what you were going through. Other than family and friends, what other support people do you have in your life? If we were to grant you the reduction, where else could you go to get that level of support that you wouldn't get as frequently from your therapist?
Well, I still go to AA meetings, and so and that's actually not something that I'm trying to get reduced because I feel that that's helpful as well. And so I feel like if I could have that safe place in that environment, going to those meetings, being able to share my experiences of what I'm going through either that day or that week, it's going to be that additional outlet that I'll have so I don't carry the burden of my life circumstances in the in-between time of when I'm waiting to see my therapist again. I also feel that too, like if I were to need an appointment with my therapist, say for example if my petition is granted and it gets reduced to once a month, and I feel like I need to speak with my therapist sooner than that once a month, then I would feel comfortable reaching out to him and seeing if I could set up an appointment with him sooner than having to wait that time.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a sponsor?
No, I do not.
What has kept you from seeking out a sponsor?
I go to an open meeting, and so just feeling that I haven't had the need to, because I haven't felt the urge of like, this is what's going on in my life, and so I need to drink and I need to go do this. And so I feel like if it were to get to that point, then I would seek out a sponsor. But in this moment, I haven't had one.
Okay. Do you understand the benefits of having a sponsor and sort of what role that person plays in the recovery process?
Yeah, it'd be additional support for myself.
Okay. All right, that's it for now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming. Christine Whitlisbach, public member.
Hi.
Some people, even if they don't have a sponsor yet, they work the 12 steps with their therapist. Have you done that?
No, we haven't worked the 12 steps with my therapist.
Okay. And you're going once a week to therapy?
Yes.
How much is each session out of pocket for you?
$60.
Okay. And you mentioned a lot of things happened in your early 20s. You mentioned several times, you said, oh, that happened in my early 20s. This is what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you how old you are now?
I'm 30.
30, okay. And how many times a month are you drug testing?
It's been reducing the past few months. When we started, I want to say the very first month it was 7 times. Okay. The month isn't over yet, but for the month of November, it's been 3 times.
How much last month? How many times last month? About?
It was either 4 or 5.
4 or 5. And how much does it cost you each time you go?
So for the collection site, it's $42. Mm-hmm. For the lab, it's an additional $65. So roughly every test is $100.
Okay. And that includes the paperwork and everything?
Yes, for the collection and lab everything, processing,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Chu, public member. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for coming in. You mentioned about the financial reasons for the request, but can you tell us one more time, other than the financial reason, why board should modify the terms? What progress should have made that merit the reduction of the terms?
I feel like from what I've been gaining as far as insight into myself from therapy has helped me learn that I don't need to use drugs and alcohol for the purpose of what I was using it before, and I don't need to use, I don't have desire to use. It's in addition to the financial hardship, I guess the stress that's been placed on me, waking up at an early hour to check in, making arrangements for myself to find, well, I know my testing sites, but going to my testing site before going to work, and then driving across town to go to work, and then the constant and just the constant stress that it's been placing on me. Primarily the stress is finances, but also just having to make these arrangements in my life so that I'm able to fulfill the obligations that have been set upon me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning,
Good
Christina
morning.
Wong, LCSW member. So I want to refer back to, so your license was issued on December 3rd, 2013.
My registration.
That's right. That's your registration.
Yes.
And so so that was prior to your two other
Convictions.
Thank you. My coffee hasn't kicked in yet. So it was the 2010 and 2007.
Yes.
Right. And so, and you were very fortunate, to issue a free and clear a registration number at that time.
Yes.
And I think the board actually, sent you a formal notice, to advise you that, you have to, behave professionally, honestly, and ethically. So what's your thought of that at that time?
In 2016?
2013, because that statement is not for everybody, because it's directly addressing, to your two previous convictions. So what's your thought about, getting that statement and knowing that, okay, now I have a free and clear license, a registration number. So what's your thought? You think do you take it lightheartedly, seriously? What?
No, no, I don't take it lightheartedly. It was definitely a lapse in my judgment of not acting in a professional manner all the time. Because the convictions of 2007 and 2010 are something that still weigh on me and something that I'm always reminded of. Knowing that if I were ever to apply for another job or to get my fingerprints tested, knowing that those are going to pop up, and knowing that I need to disclose that information in those accounts when it happens. With this incident in 2016, I know that it's going to arise and pop up again for I'm not sure how long. And receiving my registration in 2013, and even going through that process, because when I applied for the registration, it was on a 6-month hold before I got it because of the background investigation and needing to get all of the documents that of the convictions and everything. And the event of 2016 was a lapse in my judgment, and I can't say that I completely forgot, but just it wasn't in the forefront of my mind, and the actions that I did made it show that I didn't care, and which is not the case. You know, I do care about my position. I do care about my role and my job. It's a stupid lapse of judgment.
So I think, just what you said, that you care and yet you didn't care. Do you think that, that would be a very important area for you to work on?
Definitely.
Right?
Yes.
So do you think that, working in therapy, once every other week would be able to, address those issues?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Leah Brew, LPCC member. So earlier, with the Attorney General, you had asserted that you do believe that you had a problem with drugs and alcohol in the past. Would you have diagnosed yourself with a substance abuse disorder?
I believe use.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was more like abusing drugs and alcohol rather than, because I'm trying to understand, sometimes people have a serious, like they're an alcoholic or they're a drug addict, and then it seems like what you're asserting is that that's not really the issue. It was that you abused those things and used them incorrectly or inappropriately to escape from problems. Is that okay?
Yes.
I wanted to get clarity. So then the part that mystifies me is, why do you have 3 convictions? Why was one not enough?
I'm thinking of an answer. It's mistakes on my part as even in 2007 was 19 years old.
Sure, that one's understandable.
2010, I mean, I was thinking about this last night, that what were the circumstances around that event. In that event, I had went out, I went to a house party, I was drinking, I waited 2, almost 3 hours before leaving the party to drive home. And as I was driving home, I was texting my sister as I was driving to let her know that I was almost home. And I got pulled over for my cell phone illuminating the cabin of my car. And when I got pulled over, they smelled the alcohol on my breath, and they gave me a breathalyzer, and it registered at 0.09. It was, again, another lapse in my judgment of incorrectly texting, driving. There wasn't Lyft and Uber back then, and I know that calling a taxi probably would have been the smartest thing to do, but also coming right out of my bachelor's program, working but not feeling like I had enough money to pay for a taxi, I made the decision to drive instead of even staying the night of where I was at. I remember I just wanted to go home that night. And this last one was having the substance in my car and knowing that I shouldn't have had it in my car. And when I got pulled over, initially telling myself I have this in my car and they're going to ask me because of where I'm at, and I'll just need to be honest with them and let them know. Why there's 3 convictions? It's unfortunate that I have those 3 convictions and I wish I didn't, but I can't change that. But I know that what I do now I can change, as far as making sure that I don't have any future convictions or putting myself in situations or scenarios where the possibility of that happening again.
Okay. I think you need more therapy.
Okay.
When you say you wouldn't go back when you were answering questions because it would be disrespect to the board, a disrespect to your clients, we're not here to be respected or evaluate you in terms of your goodness as a person.
Mm-hmm.
It's about your psychological health and
Mhm.
safety to practice, right? Because as therapists, we have to be healthier
Mhm.
than maybe an accountant. I don't know, I'm just randomly picking something, but because we use who we are.
Mhm.
And as you talk about how you've used therapy, as I look at the letter that your therapist submitted recommending that you terminate, I notice that you've gained some insight about poor judgment, bad decisions, bad choices. That feels like a real superficial understanding. And you gave a taste of the pain that you felt from your childhood experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of beginning to go a little bit deeper. But I suspect there's something larger and more systemic going on that connects the drug use other than a bad way to cope.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's not also true, but it seems to me there's a lot more there
Mm-hmm.
that you're not quite aware of yet. And I'm not sure what theoretical orientation you practice from or what theoretical orientation. I noticed your therapist was trained by Ivy. It seems like it's more CBT. I would like you to engage in a more depth therapy because I think there's still some work for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that like right now, yeah, you can't imagine making these mistakes again,
Mm-hmm.
but I think 5 years from now when this is all behind you, that there's going to be a awesome party or an awesome opportunity to go do something really fun, and you might make that decision again, not because I perceive you as someone who's a drug addict or an alcoholic, but because there's something still not yet done, some work that's not yet done.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Becca Stout, MFT board member. I want to sort of piggyback on that. I didn't. I know you chose as your substance abuse group meetings would be AA, but I'm not really hearing that you're doing a lot of work with the 12 steps, not with your therapist, as someone else asked. Could you elaborate the work you are doing?
I'm attending the meetings. I'm engaged in the topics of discussion. But no, I haven't done the steps.
Is there a reason for that?
No. I just haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Alexander Kim, public member. You mentioned about, recognizing situations that would put you in danger of, falling into the same habits.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding your friends, do you still associate with friends that attend certain parties that could preclude temptations?
No. I've learned to keep away from those specific people. People who would try to entice me or try to put me in those situations. The people that I surround myself now are individuals who are not using, who are sound mind, and who are, providing me with support on how to manage myself during this time.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up questions from any board members?
All right. Any extra cross-examination for any reason?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and do you have any final testimony you'd like to add before we do closing arguments?
No, I do not.
Okay, closing argument, Deputy Attorney General, if you want one?
Your Honor, the people will submit.
Okay. Would you like to make a closing argument?
No.
No? Okay, then I'm assuming we'll stay on the record, but for purposes of this case, it is submitted on the evidence. And I just need a page count, roughly, for this one.
Approximately 34 pages.
34. Okay, are we okay to keep going, or does anybody need a break? Okay, let's go off the record for about 10 minutes. Okay. Let's go back. Okay, so we will be back on the record, and this is going to be the matter of the petition for modification of probation for Dalia Ruby Marita Cuevas. The OAH case number is 2018-101175. And may I have the appearance again of the Attorney General?
Good morning, Robert Tomlin White, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California, pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Okay, and if you could identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Dalia Merida Cuevas.
Okay, and who do you have with you?
My name is Bridget Barney, ACSW 70971, here in support of Dalia.
Okay, are you a witness?
Personal friend.
Personal friend. You're just here for support, or are you going to testify?
I'm happy to testify, provide any information that the board might like for the case.
Okay. I know you were watching the last case, so you kind of saw how it went. It's going to proceed in the same way. What we'll do is we'll have the Deputy Attorney General make an opening statement if he would like to, and then we'll turn it over to you. Okay? So Mr. White?
Yes, Your Honor, just briefly summarize the case. On February 8th, 2016, Ms. Cuevas applied for Associate Clinical Social Worker registration, which was denied on August 5th, 2016, due to, on April 29th, 2014, she was arrested for a violation of driving under the influence with a BAC of .15. On September 2nd, 2014, she was convicted of that DUI. On November 15th, 2016, our office filed a statement of issues that ultimately resulted in the board adopting a stipulated settlement of that statement of issues that imposed a 3-year probationary term. The stipulation became effective on August 30th, 2017. And at this time, Your Honor, I'd like to mark and offer and enter into evidence the various exhibits of the petition packet. And this petition packet also includes Exhibits 3 and 4, which require protective orders pursuant to California Code of Regulations Title 1, Section 1030, and Government Code Section 11517.
Okay, do you have any objection to the admission of the exhibits?
No.
Okay, so exhibits 1 through 6 are admitted. 3 and 4 are subject to a protective order, so that request is granted. And as you saw with the last case, what that means is if anybody ever requests this as a public record, your psychotherapy reports or evaluations will not be released to the public. Okay?
Can I ask a quick question? I'm sorry. In our packets, and I don't know if they look the same as hers, in Exhibit 1, the psychoevaluation is in there as well.
Where, middle, where would you say?
About in the middle, or toward two-thirds into it.
Is that the same one that's
Yes.
in 3?
Yes.
Okay, then, do you have any objection if we seal 1 as well?
I do not, Your Honor. It appears
The only other thing I could do, well, I mean, I would hate to separate the, I could pull the I could pull it out of Exhibit 1. I usually don't like to split up exhibits, though, because that is what she submitted with her petition.
well, it appears that I was going to say that petitioner did put that evaluation in with her petition. I think it probably should be sealed in one form or another or redacted. It probably should not become part of the public record.
You know, let's just make it easy. I'll add 1 to the sealing order. So we'll seal 1, 3, and 4.
Sounds appropriate, Your Honor.
Okay, so we'll do that. So all the exhibits are admitted. Thanks for noticing that. So 1, 3, and 4 are sealed. Did you have any other opening statement?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
My understanding, I guess I would just add, is that the petitioner is requesting modification for decreased fluid testing, elimination of self-support services, and individual therapy on a biweekly basis. But given that it is petitioner's burden, I will let her address the board on what exactly she is seeking.
Okay. Again, like I said, you watched the last one. So did you want to just begin with your testimony and presentation of your case, or did you want to make an opening statement?
Yeah, I'll start off with the starting off the.
Okay,
and then-
so raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and what would you like to tell the board?
I wanted to ask the board if it's okay if I could provide additional information. I was able to just add maybe some redundant copies, but also some of the answers that I had for some of the rehabilitation efforts that I made throughout the year while being on probation.
Well, it's up to the board if they want to accept it. Typically, everything is supposed to be provided before. The only problem is if you haven't made multiple copies, we would need to make sure we have copies before we leave here today.
Okay.
Okay, so do you have extra copies of that information?
I believe so. I think I have enough.
I have a question though. Those seem like pretty large packets, and that looks like that might take a little time for us to kind of go through if it's.
What did you bring with you today?
It was just very brief of like my letters of recommendation. Also, some of the letters that my therapist had wrote, performance evaluation, resume, and I know that it might be already in the packet. I just wanted to simplify.
Do you know if it's in the packet already? Did you put it with your petition?
I did put it with my petition, yes.
If it's in the packet, we've read it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you provided these things to the board, because I've looked through here and they have letters in here and it looks like there's some evaluations. So
Okay.
it may be information you already provided to them.
Okay, perfect.
You said it was submitted with your petition, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, then we have that because they have everything you submitted with your petition.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so then that takes care of that. So again, what would you like to tell the board about why they should modify your probation?
Well,
Starting with what you want modified.
Okay. Well, good morning. Again, my name is Dalia Merida Cuevas. I am an associate clinical social worker. I am here humbly asking you for the reduction of fluid testing, random fluid testings, to your discretion. Right now, I'm getting fluid tested about 3 to 4 times a month. That has definitely been a financial constraint on my end since it's very costly. And also, I wanted to, right now I'm receiving individual therapy on a weekly basis, and I wanted to see if I could change it to a bi-weekly basis. With the possibility of having over the phone sessions if needed, but of course my priority would be to do it in person, just in case there's like anything that's happening that wouldn't allow me to show up in person. And then also I wanted to ask for termination of self-supportive services. Right now I'm doing it twice a week, but I would also ask even if it's once a week, I would be okay with that as well. And I just wanted to read a little bit of some of the efforts that I've done in order to really rehabilitate myself and really show my regret and also make amends for my mistake that I committed. Through the past year, I received
Could you hold on one second? Could you just explain what self-supportive services are?
Alcoholics Anonymous meetings.
Okay. I was wondering the same thing. I figured maybe you'd get to it. So, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Through the past year, I've learned a great deal on the issues surrounded by substance abuse and its social epidemic. I took a course of the introduction of alcohol and drugs and in East Los Angeles College, since I'm originated from East Los Angeles. This course really taught me about the history, the classifications, the impact and treatment of psychoactive drugs and alcohol. And the course has allowed me to really critically think and about the social attitudes, the policies, and as well as mental health and health concerns because of the issues of alcohol and drug usage. And it's really affirmed my interest in actually getting a higher education and pursuing drug and alcohol counseling certification aside from my licensing in the future, because I've become very passionate about this subject matter because of my own experience. Through the last year, I've also attended self-supportive services, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings in East LA. I've really have attended mainly the Big Book reading studies meetings because it's really allowed me to go in more in depth of the Big Book. It's really taught me about the values, the traditions. It's taught me to have a higher connection with God as well through this experience, because it's definitely been an experience that has increased my wisdom and tolerance, because it's been a lot. I just recently was able to obtain a sponsor. Her name is Maria, and we just started working, and where she's having me do the first assignments for the first step, which is to go through the doctor's opinion, which is really starting to dive into the book and really diving into how does it relate to my own life and my own usage of alcohol in the past. As my professional growth, right now I'm currently working at St. Joseph Center. I'm providing psychotherapy to Latino families, individuals, and groups. And, something that we've mainly focused our services around providing a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy and really working with trauma-informed care with clients with a lot of trauma. And some of the needs that I've noticed in my job site that were still not fulfilled was the awareness of substance abuse issues. And because of that, I took on the lead in my work setting to bring awareness of drug and alcohol related issues by bringing workshops into the community and the clients, because it's something that I've really have told my supervisors of my interest in bringing awareness of the issue, and also as a form of starting to grow within the field of substance abuse and trying to develop my experience as well. Aside from that, I've also obtained a new employment throughout the year. I have 2 jobs. My second job is I work for a West Area Opportunity Center, and it's in West Los Angeles. And I'm considered a substance abuse counselor, and I facilitate groups for DUI first offenders. And I provide a little bit of the cognitive behavioral therapy, solutions-focused strategies, and motivational interview in order to really talk about really bringing awareness and in efforts to help other people who have also received DUIs in the past to about the issue of substance abuse, really talk about the significance, the impact, and the consequences of getting a DUI. I think that this has been definitely a very rewarding job because I am able to bring my own experience into it. It's really, I think it's made me a stronger social worker because of it. Because I think about this experience not as a punishment, but more like what's the meaning behind it and what did I learn from it and how can I remake this into making it a positive experience for myself. And of course, aside from that, really receiving individual therapy on a weekly basis with my therapist, Naomi Bloom. My therapist and I have a very strong working alliance. I love her. She has definitely like helped me through this year and trying to stay sane in other requirements that I have to comply to because aside from having 2 jobs, I also have a toddler of a 2-year-old. So it's been definitely trying to like work my time around and really just trying to process this experience. When I got the DUI initially in 2014, just as a side disclosure, I had enrolled into my own private individual therapy 3 years prior to starting with my new therapist a year ago. And so this has been in the making about, I want to say, 4 years since the conviction and trying to really work on my own individual processes and what did I get from this. And I really have been able to discuss rooted trauma that I've experienced myself, my lack of coping skills that I've had and that led me to this situation. And I have also just been able to grow as an individual and really being able to take care of my mental health. So I really wanted to just bring up a little bit in a nutshell what I've been doing for the past year to show really how I've learned and really making efforts to make amends for my mistake from my first and only offense that I've committed. Thank you.
Yes, briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Cuevas, how old are you now?
I am 28 years old.
So you were 24 at the time of the incident?
Yes, I was 24.
And how long have you been involved in this profession in one form or another?
Well, in my undergraduate, I interned for the Department of Children and Family Services, so that's when I was gearing my career to be a social worker. I got my conviction when I was in graduate school. I was actually leading my career to work at the department for DCFS, but because of my situation, I was actually terminated from my job. And I, at the time, was almost graduating 3 months before the incident had occurred. And, you know, I unfortunately was not coping adequately because of the stresses of grad school. And yeah, I also decided to make an impulsive decision to go out one night to a party or to a club, and I ended up taking the irresponsible decision of drinking and driving.
Do you mind describing the circumstances of that DUI and the decisions that were made?
Yeah, well, I had attended a birthday gathering for one of my sorority sisters, and this is a little bit of also another reason. Now, I don't want to say a reason like to make it an excuse, but just to say like that I've surrounded myself around drinking environments in the past because I did join a sorority when I was an undergraduate. Aside from my own like culture and like family dynamics that has been very involved with heavy drinking. And unfortunately that night I decided to go to a birthday gathering for one of my sorority sisters, and I made the bad judgment decision thinking that I was fine and that that I could make it home, and unfortunately like that was the wrong decision to make, and very remorseful and regretful for it.
So having described being in environments that involved heavy drinking, do you believe that you previously had a problem with alcohol?
I would say that I definitely had problematic drinking instances because of my college environment. I went to UC Santa Barbara for my undergraduate, so there was, to be very transparent, a very like heavy drinking environment. And because of that, I really wasn't thinking like as logically in terms of my alcohol consumption, and also it was maybe like really the to go to in terms of the social gatherings that I surround myself before in the past. But since then, it's definitely changed drastically because it's not the environments that I surround myself around anymore.
So you mentioned that you voluntarily entered yourself into therapy. Was that after your DUI?
Yes. Immediately after I got my DUI, I decided to enroll into individual therapy because I knew that it was wrong, because I knew I needed help. And I really wanted to start diving in depth of like why I got myself into that situation.
What type of therapy was that?
Individual therapy with also like cognitive behavioral therapy, a little bit of going in depth of my own trauma, my history, really being able to, it was an MFT. Her name is Mary Cifuentes, and she is wonderful, and she really helped me to also endure the situation that I was going with, all the restitution requirements that I had to comply for the DUI.
Do you have a sobriety date?
My sobriety date is May 2017. I can't recall which day, but yes.
Okay. I think you mentioned that you are currently in AA.
Yes, I am currently going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings.
And you have a sponsor?
Yes, I just recently obtained a sponsor named Maria.
About how many AA meetings have you attended?
2 times a week. So it's for the past year. So I wouldn't be able to calculate all of that, but it's definitely been a good amount of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. So 2 times a week. So that would be about 8 to 10.
And just to clarify, I believe I heard you say you were doing the 12-step program, but you were on step 1?
Step 1, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What other types of self-support mechanisms do you use to help treat yourself with pursuant to these probationary conditions?
For self-support, I really have my family and my friends to go to. For instance, my friend Bridget, we went to graduate school together, and really being able to talk to them through this experience, and also my family members, since everybody's very aware. I'm very transparent with this experience, so that maybe it could also help others, and because of my experience. And I really need to resort to my family support because of my toddler, who I need to get extra support to juggle with all the requirements that I need to get done. And then also for my own self-care, I am working towards exercising, really taking care of my nutrition, and getting in touch with nature and God. That's been my to-go-to for my self-care.
So do you still associate with your friends, your previous friends that were involved in heavy drinking environments?
No, definitely not in the way that I used to. If I interact with let's say my sorority sisters, it'll be more like family oriented environments where it's for instance like a gathering for my daughter or for their children as well. I don't surround myself around drinking environments like clubs or bars or anything of that sort. Yeah, and for me, it's really all about decision making, because I'm not going to be able to get away completely from drinking environments, but I know that it's ultimately on my decision making and choices from abstaining from all alcohol.
And so this is kind of related to my other question, but I just want to see if you could elaborate a little bit more. you mentioned that you have a toddler and you have these probationary conditions and whatnot. So how do you cope with the stress and the requirements that are placed upon you at this point?
With coping, I definitely think therapy has been a main one for me. Really being able to vent and just talk about like my daily stressors. Exercise, it's really good. It's been good for my health, for my mental health as well. And really being able to just do healthy activities like anything that's more family oriented for me now is something I'm more geared towards. So really being able to have some family fun times, like that's been my life has like switched since I become a mother. It's my priorities are different.
And how long have you been a mother?
For 2 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I noticed that you are asking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, the elimination of self-supportive services. How can you assure the board that that particular element of your probation is not something that that needs to continue?
I was like thinking about it, like why I wanted to terminate that, because I know that I will continue attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. It's just like taking away the concept of the requirement, because it's something that I'm like willing to do on my own, and really, it's something that I am able to really like trust my own judgment and decision making. That is something that I am like carnally trying to work towards my own recovery. And I didn't identify myself as an alcoholic in the past year, and I still like struggle with that, because I'm like, well, it was a one-time incident and I had problematic drinking issues, but I think that I took this decision to get a sponsor, because I am able. It's not about finding the differences, but more the similarities, and being able to find like my interest in just maybe abstaining from alcohol for my lifetime, because I know its impact, and I know the consequences that has happened because of it.
So you're 28 years old now. It seems likely you're going to be in an event that is going to be heavily influenced by alcohol again. Mm-hmm. Do you plan on ever drinking again?
As of right now, I do not plan on ever drinking again, because that's the reason I decided to to get a sponsor, because I really want her to guide me through the steps, and because it's not my interest, and because I want to become a substance abuse counselor. Like I really want to gear my life to this. Like this has been a calling for me, and this is what I'm gearing my life to. This is an ongoing sort of calling that I've had, that I know that I'm going to continue working towards.
Okay, and then I have one last question. It sounds like you want to continue with AA. Is there any other types of therapy that you intend to continue if your request is granted here?
I will continue the self-supportive services, the individual therapy. I also get couples therapy, and I, aside from another therapy, I think that's all I would be doing for now. Yeah.
Okay, nothing further.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Hi, thanks for being here. Gabriel Lam, LCSW member. One question, you mentioned that you are in step 1 currently. Can you tell the board what have you learned so far in your first step?
Well, right now it's really being able to give myself up to God. That's been like the step 1, really being able to surrender in this situation and come into complete acceptance that I do not want to drink. That's like, that's something that I've been told through my meetings, is that, do you want to stop drinking? And that's all you really need in order to start getting into the program. And I said yes. And that's the reason why I decided to start with working with Maria. And right now, it's not as fresh because I've been in Alcoholics Anonymous for a year, so I've been really being able to get the concepts of their values, their traditions. But now I'm like, no, I actually want to do the work, and I actually want to be in there and start working towards my own individual recovery and abstinence from alcohol.
Thank you. No more questions.
Good morning, and thank
Good
you for
morning.
coming. You mentioned that after your initial DUI, you started going to individual therapy. How long were you in therapy the first time?
For 3 years.
You're in for 3 years.
Yes.
What led you to terminate? So that would have been sometime September 2014 until about 2017, like sometime mid last year.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to change my therapist because it was required through my probationary requirements. Yeah, so I needed to get a new therapist.
So then that's not a big issue for me. There was continuity. You just had to make the change because you were currently on probation.
Yeah.
What did you learn, and what have you learned so far about your relationship to alcohol and how your past, impacts why you started drinking and your relationship to it?
Yeah, it's really like all stemming from like learned behavior through my own like culture and family dynamic. That's been a very prone thing to do in my culture, to just drink heavily. So one, it has been the learned behavior aspect of it. Also I've been able to process, not to go too much in depth, of my own rooted trauma of sexual abuse. I've been able to really talk about my how it's really affected the fact that mental illness runs in my family as well, and how because of that I wasn't able to get the most, I want to say, proper guidance in how to cope, and because of that I really wanted to break that cycle. I wanted to get out of the dysfunction, and really therapy has taught me of how to make choices, healthier choices, and be a healthier individual. So it's something that I definitely want to continue doing, therapy. I mean, I wanted, if I could afford it, I will continue it for long term, because I think that it's not necessarily that there's like an issue, but I just want to like continue dealing with my stressors, and it's my maintenance, it's my own sanity to continue processing my daily issues and stressors.
What are some of the specific stressors that you and your therapist have identified that are sort of alive and well for you right now that you're sort of juggling?
I would say definitely like sometimes I want to say my stresses is like my feelings of helplessness that arise because of the time management and because of the shame that I've carried because of this experience. I've been denied several times jobs because of my probation standing, so that's something that I sometimes put myself down for, or might carry some shame around it, because it's been something that I've really had to process and just be okay in acceptance with it, and just try to be like reframe that in a positive manner. So that's definitely been one that I've mainly have talked to my therapist about.
Okay. And would it be fair to say also, I'm a parent. Being a parent is a stressor. Being
Yes.
married is a stressor.
Yes.
Being on probation is a stressor.
All of that, yes.
The traffic on 405 is, just all the sort of things that happen too. What are some of could you tell us a couple of the strategies that you have been able to successfully utilize now to manage the multiple stressors that are alive for you?
Yeah, reaching out to my supportive network has been number one. Keeping everybody informed of like what's going on, like So like, you know, I have to go to meetings, I have to do this, being in touch with like communicating with my husband, like if I need extra support, really asking for it. And in terms of like the like things that have worked for myself is really trying to like not feel guilty to set time aside for myself, and by like exercising and really being able to just take those really small hour gaps or half an hour gaps just for myself to keep saying through all the juggling of every week things that I need to get done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those sound great. So I'm wondering, and I'm asking you a personal question. So whenever someone is in a relationship with someone else, they're not in recovery alone, because the person that they're in relationship with can either support and enhance that process, or they could actually make it much more difficult. Can you tell me, how did I word the question? How does your husband, what's his role in your recovery?
That's a good question. My husband is very supportive. I am very grateful that he understands that I don't want to surround myself around like drinking environments. So, for instance, we don't have any alcohol in the house. That's been number one thing. And then also like he respects when I tell him like I have my limits of like certain things that like, let's say we go to family gatherings and then once people start like drinking heavily, then I'm like, okay, I kind of want to start leaving now. And he's respectful of that. He's able to be like, okay, like let's go. Just because at that point it's you know, it's not, I want to break again that cycle for my daughter, for her not to see that. So he's been very supportive in the way that I cried to him, I vent to him of everything that's happened, and he gets that this is a serious matter. And that when I told him that I got a sponsor, he was like also supportive of that. So he's also even decreased his own alcohol consumption, because now like, not that he's like in recovery, but he knows that he like now like I'm modeling that for our own household as well.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned there's no alcohol in the house, but it sounds like your husband does drink, maybe with his buddies or in other places.
Yeah, very like moderately, like in his like own time, but like not in front of me. And then also like, or even like if he's like making also different decisions in that way of like, you know, like if we go to a restaurant, he won't have a glass of wine because he knows that I'm there. So yeah,
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you have a sponsor. How long have you had your sponsor? I know you've been in AA for about a year. How long have you had your sponsor?
I've known Maria for this whole year. I've actually been meaning to ask her to be my sponsor for a while, so she just reached out to me a couple of weeks, and she told me, like, do you want to start working on the steps? And I said, yeah, like, I've been meaning to. So that relationship with her has actually been there the whole year. It's just that now that, like, I see her, like, as, you know, as a sort of like a godmother like figure, because she's been like very like warming when I'm going into the meetings. She's like, you know, I like text her, so I'm able to have that communication with her, and she's just been like very like open arms with me, and I really like her. I feel comfortable with her.
So it sounds like you've known her a while, but how long has she actually been your formal sponsor? Because there's a difference between seeing somebody who's sort of, you can sort of get a hug from and say hi and then separate, than someone who's a sponsor who's really challenging you and supporting you and holding you accountable. How long has she actually been in that role?
Yeah, in like the past like 2 weeks, we decided that we were going to start. Yeah. So she's been my sponsor for the like officially for the past 2 weeks.
Okay. And since that is a new relationship, I'm wondering, could you talk to us about how that relationship will continue, because you're asking for us to actually eliminate your participation in AA.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering how that will work, you having a new sponsor, and if we reduce that and send it away, what's your plan for that relationship to continue since you find it to be so supportive?
Yeah, I, you know, or even if it wasn't eliminated, maybe like once a week, just because I want to get the requirement aspect out of it. Like, you know, it defeats the purpose of me like willingly wanting to be there. I really, this is like more of a personal sort of like like commitment that I want to do, but not because it's required. It's something that I like willingly want to do it, and it would allow for me to attend like the meetings without having like the actual like requirement of having to go there.
Sure,
Yeah.
but it would also provide an opportunity for you not to go and you not to meet your sponsor because you don't have to, considering all the other stressors that are in your life too.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there isn't a clear, concrete plan of how that would continue if we were to reduce it. Is that correct?
Well, the plan would be for me to continue going to the meetings that I go to now. It's every Saturdays. I go in at 8 in the morning, and I also go to one on Friday nights. So because that's like my home group. So those meetings, those are the ones that I already have in my schedule. In terms of like having a routine with my mom taking care of my daughter. So my plan is to continue doing that.
And I have 2 more questions and I'm done. At what age did you start drinking?
18?
18.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when did you have your last drink? When was the last time you had a drink?
I want to say like May of 2017.
May of 2017.
Yeah.
Thank you. No more questions.
Hi, Christine Whitlisbach, public member. Just one quick question. Since you started with Maria, she's giving you an assignment, I
Yes.
assume. Have you started on that?
Yes. So she assigned me to go through the doctor's opinion. And it's basically talking about more in depth of like the like chemical aspect of it. They call it like an allergy. And really kind of like it's like a symbolic meaning of being able to say like this has been something that could also be not just something that it's out of self-will, but it might be something that's like within you that you might just have biologically. So and then like the doctor really being able to discuss his like own opinion of his own feedback of like what alcohol does to the body. And so she asked me to go through every single paragraph and like apply it to myself. Like how does it apply to me? What are some of the similarities that I find with it? And I'm asking a lot of like questions, because like with that, we're just kind of like saying like, oh, well, I'm wondering if like I could find more in depth of like how the chemical dependency, like it actually like flows like within the body and the brain, and how has it like adapt to my own life, like meaning like, do I consider myself to have an allergy? So those are just like stuff that I'm very like premature on still, but just working on the assignments. And we have planned to meet every after our meeting to plan to meet for an hour after the meetings on Saturdays.
But you've started asking her questions about.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Thank
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Christina Wong, LCSW member. Thanks for providing a lot of information about your, the activities that you have done, to be in compliance with the board's requirement. So, I heard that, you use the word problematic drinking, to describe, yourself. So can you tell us that, what makes it so problematic? Basically I'm looking at, it's your pattern and, the way you drink, or not like, physically, but, the circumstances leading to, the problematic drinking.
Yeah, the problematic drinking is I used to resort to alcohol for that instant gratification, and not finding other outlets to cope with the situation. So that's what and then also for social reasons, I wouldn't drink like moderately, like I would drink heavily. So I would say those were my problematic instances of drinking so much.
So you're like the binge drinker?
I wouldn't say binge drinker, just, if it was like, let's say, a gathering or, I technically, in terms, yes, it would be considered binge drinking because they say after 4 drinks, then it's considered binge drinking. So, yes. But, it's really like not moderating myself in the past and just saying like, okay, this is like my limit. But because of that, I like after the DUI incident, I started moderating. I started like actually really making sure that I was like, okay, 1 is fine and like I'm okay with that. But now I'm at this phase in my life where I actually just don't want to drink at all. Like I want to go completely abstain from it.
So the instant gratification that you said, can you describe a little bit more too?
Yeah, well, I mean, like chemically, the euphoric aspect of it, like, oh, it makes you feel live and lively and stuff, and not like the numbing aspect of it, like really not thinking of the stressor. So if it was like a work activity, going to happy hour to de-stress, right? All the excuses for why to drink. But now it's like, no, like I know better now. I'm a lot more informed now. And I know that my way of thinking of what it was in the past was incorrect. And now I know that that it is considered binge drinking, that it is problematic, that that I definitely have choices now that I can make in a healthier manner, and also all the problematic health concerns that come along with binge drinking as well. So because of that, I was like, okay, like I really need to I don't want to do it anymore because I want to be a healthy individual.
So it looks like you're right now you're working on the abstinence, but you're also building on the lifestyle.
Yeah.
To break that family cycle, like you talk about.
Yes.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Leah Brew, LPCC member. I just wanted to quickly recognize and acknowledge the hard work that you're doing, your perseverance, and how much you're growing from, and your transparency for telling us a little about your past and your story and where you are now. It's admirable.
Thank you.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity. And yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Did you have any closing to make?
No, Your Honor. Submit.
Okay, then with that, the record on this one will be closed. Thank you very much. And I just need a page count on this one. Okay, did you want to continue going through, or do we need another break? Yes. Okay, so let's take a 5-10 minute break. Reporter will be on the record. Okay, and this is in the matter of the petition for modification of probation of Julie Figueroa. The OAH case number is 2018-101201. I'm Administrative Law Judge Kimberly Belvedere, and just for the record, if I could have the appearance of the Deputy, excuse me, the Deputy Attorney General. If you could just state your appearance for the record again.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. Robert Tomlin White, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the people pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 2760.1 and Government Code Section 11522.
Okay, and if you could identify yourself for the record?
Julie Figueroa.
Okay, and do you have, is this a support person or an attorney?
My husband.
It's your support person,
Yes.
okay. So prior to going on the record, we have these exhibits. They're exhibits 1 through 5. Do you have any objection to the admission of those exhibits?
No, I do not.
Okay, and do we have protective orders needed on this as well?
I believe so, Your Honor.
3 and 4?
That's correct, Your Honor. And I believe I have 6 total exhibits in my packet.
Okay, 6 exhibits. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So exhibits 1 through 6 are admitted. 3 and 4 will be subject to a protective order, and as you've heard with the other cases, that means that if anybody ever requests transcripts or exhibits from this proceeding, exhibits 3 and 4 will not be released to the public. Okay? Did you want to make an opening statement?
No.
No? Did you want to make an opening statement?
I do want to summarize the case, Your Honor. I was just informed by Ms. Figueroa that she has additional material, so she may want to ask the board if the board wants to consider it.
Yeah, I started a new job in August of this year, and my supervisor wrote a letter for me. I was not able to put it in the packet because when I put the petition together, I was not able to get it yet at that time. I also just received yesterday Employee of the Month at my work, and I have a certificate, and I'd like to admit both of those to the record, and I brought copies for everybody.
Okay. It's up to the board. I don't have any problem putting it in the packet, but the board gets the final decision. So does do any of the board members have any objections if those two exhibits are received into the packet? Okay, with no objection, if you could bring a copy up here then.
Can I get a
There's
copy as well?
copies.
So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put those items in Exhibit 1. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, could we also clarify what modification she's asking for? Because these is AA meetings weekly, I'm not clear on what
We
she's
will,
asking.
we're just not there yet.
Okay.
But I promise you we'll get to that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. White?
Yes, Your Honor. I just want to briefly summarize the case. The facts of the matter are that on September 26, 2013, Ms. Figueroa was issued an Associate Marriage and Family Therapist Intern registration. Subsequently, on January 24th, 2015, she was arrested for a DUI in Pomona, California. On August 20th, 2015, she was convicted of that DUI. On August 18th, 2016, our office filed an accusation due to that DUI against her registration. On August, looks like right around that time, I might have the dates wrong here, but the board adopted a stipulated settlement to the accusation, issuing a 3-year probationary term, revoking and issuing the license on a 3-year probationary term. That stipulation went into effect on September 7th, 2017. And as part of the probationary terms, the packet that I have that was submitted by Ms. Figueroa indicates that her psychological evaluation was completed on August 11th, 2017, that her quarterly reports are fully compliant, her dependency report support was fully compliant, her remedial education element was fully compliant, her biological fluid testing was fully compliant, her cost recovery was fully compliant, and the standard terms and conditions reimbursement costs, she was apparently late on one payment in July that was subsequently made, and she is now fully compliant with that term as well.
July 2018?
July, I have that she missed a payment on July 7th, 2018, and then I believe sometime in September 2018 the payment was made, and the most recent record I saw in preparation was that she was fully compliant.
Okay, if you could go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and like I said, we've added your 2 exhibits to your petition in Exhibit 1, the 2 documents that you brought today. So what would you like to tell the board about why they should modify your probation, starting with what you would like to modify?
I just wanted to say, just for the record, that my probation started on not on September, on July 7th, and you had said September.
Okay.
So, well, I wrote something, so if it's okay if I can read it.
It is, but we need to start with
Okay.
What modifications.
What modifications?
Yeah, and then you can go into.
Well, I'm asking to modify that I would no longer need to go to AA meetings, that I would no longer need to do therapy sessions, and that I would no longer need to call in and do fluid testing.
Okay, And just so you know, if you're going to read a prepared statement, when people read, they tend to speak really, really fast because they're reading it, and we do have a court reporter, and it can be hard sometimes to type, so just make sure if you're going to read something that you go a little bit slower than you normally would.
Okay.
Okay?
So I'd like to start by saying thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm grateful to be here and be given the opportunity to modify the terms of my probation. As you are aware with my offense, that I am lucky I did not hurt myself or others the night that I chose to drink and drive, and I take responsibility for the recklessness of my behavior. Being arrested and having to stay in jail all night was humiliating, it was scary, and it was life-changing. My husband and my daughter were called to pick up my car and picked me up the next morning. I felt ashamed. I raised my children to know how wrong it is to break laws and how wrong it is to drive when under the influence. And there my daughter was looking at me. After I had been arrested for doing what I had always told her not to do. I was very disappointed. I have thought a lot about my life, the choices, and my values in the past year and a half. I've been going to AA meetings twice a week, to therapy once a week, checking in daily for this random fluid testing. And, it's all been beneficial in one way or another for me. I've learned a lot. It has made me a better wife, mother, and overall more responsible person, human being. During this time, I have had to learn to set clear boundaries for myself. I've had to work on my self-care and establish healthier coping skills. Being on probation has made me a better therapist. I work with clients who are mandated through probation, and I'm just better able to build rapport, to have understanding of what they're experiencing, and empathy about their arrests and going through probation. Overall, I am thankful for the experience, although I'm sad that it's had to happen. But it has allowed me to continue to work as a therapist. I'm thankful for that. It's made me more responsible. And I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I do pray that you will consider modifying the terms of my probation.
Okay, cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Figueroa, how old are you?
49.
And so, would it be correct to assume you were 46 at the time of this incident?
Yes.
And how long have you been involved in this profession?
I graduated in 2013, and I was working as an intern, as an intern. I was working voluntarily.
Since 2013 then?
Yes.
Okay. Could you briefly describe the circumstances surrounding your DUI and the choices that led to it?
Sure. About a year before the DUI, I had a major surgery, and my wounds dehisced, and that means they opened up, and I contracted MRSA, and I was very sick, and I was hospitalized, and during that time, I was having severe pain in my lower back, and they did an MRI on me, and they found lesions on my spinal cord, and I went through a process of learning they may have cancer and going through a very difficult time, and it was very painful. I was having a lot of pain in my spinal cord. During that time, the doctor put me on some, I was not willing to take any pain medication, and I was like a healthy person before that, so I'm a vegan, and I took care of myself, and so I didn't want to take any pain medication, so she was putting me on different medication, and when I was working one night, we don't normally go out, and do things like this when my husband asked me if I wanted to go to Disney Walk after work on a Friday night. And I didn't really want to go because I wasn't feeling well, and this was like probably 6 months into my pain. And I decided to go because I knew he wanted to go, and I had some drinks that night. I wasn't driving, and I had my car at a park and ride where we met, which was like pretty much way of a distance. I wasn't really considering that I had to drive or even thinking logically about it or being responsible. And then when we got back to the park and ride, I wasn't feeling well, and I think it was just a combination of drinking and having the medication in my system that was new. And so I told my husband I didn't feel well. He didn't want me to drive, but I told him no because we have to work, and I just justified all these reasons why. So I got in my car, and I started driving, and then I just didn't feel well, so I pulled off the side of the road. And I called my husband, and I told him he needed to come pick me up. And he was right that I shouldn't have drove. And I literally went like 1 mile. I knew it was wrong to do it anyways. It's not an excuse, but on his way to pick me up, the police came and they asked me what I was doing, and I told them the reason I stopped was because, and I explained the whole situation, and then they asked me if I was drinking. I said yes, I was, and then I got a DUI. That's my story. It wasn't a typical thing for me to do, but I knew it was wrong and I did it. So that's what happened.
So now that you're on probation as a result of this DUI, why are you asking for the current modification that you are requesting?
Well, the modification is because I've been doing this for a year and a half. It is a very stressful situation to do. I don't identify in the AA meetings. I've never had a substance use disorder, or although I do see that drinking and driving is very wrong and irresponsible. But I feel like I can't speak at meetings because I don't want to interrupt what people are experiencing there. And I can't start with number one, because number one is to admit that you're an alcoholic, and I can't identify that. So I don't find a lot of support at AA. I found that it's helped me to actually return to my faith, which is a wonderful thing because that's been really awesome for me. But I haven't been able to like grow fellowship there or relationships and get into that program. So for the AA, it's been hard for me to be there because I just don't want to interfere with what like other people are doing. So to talk and to like say things, it's really difficult. But it's been an experience that has also been useful because I've learned so much about the program, and which helps me in my career and helping other people that are going through addiction, which I deal a lot with in my job. Therapy has been a wonderful experience. It's not my first experience with therapy. I've been through therapy. This is my second time. I went through it for about a year and a half when I was going through grad school as part of the requirement of my school. And so this time has been good because it really helped me with self-care. I learned that I wasn't really taking care of my medical condition and working through pain management and doing things that I needed to do for myself. I was also afraid to go out and look for a job because I was working voluntarily, and I was afraid that I was going to be judged for my DUI, which I felt really guilty about. And anyways, I did end up getting a job recently, and that was with help through therapy. And she's just helped me with my anxiety over like my guilt and just being irresponsible and other things. So therapy has been good. I feel like now that I'm working and I'm so busy and my life is where it is, that we've accomplished like most of the goals that we've been working on. So we're kind of just like now chatting about like, sharing our own career and stuff. So I just feel like I'm done with the therapy part of it. And the fluid testing is very stressful, I have to say. It has been something that is very difficult. I have to call every morning, which is I'm so afraid that I'm going to forget to call. And that is an anxiety thing for me. But then I call, and then I have to schedule through my day. And I have clients sometimes scheduled from 9 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I work till 7:30 if my clients are like, they don't come, and then I have to reschedule them because they're mandated, and I'm trying to get them in, and all this stuff. And it's like I'm trying to, like, if a client cancels, can I make it in time? And then if I have to go down to LA and I'm in a training, and it's like, and then I want to be trained to be the LPS in my facility, and then I can't because I'm on call. That would be on call 24 hours, and if I have to go test, it's like, it's a big responsibility. It's also a financial burden on my family. It's very expensive, and my daughter's in college, and we're sharing a car because my daughter was in a car accident, and now she doesn't have a car, and so I have to get someone to pick me up, to take me to a test. It's a real burden on me. So I'm asking for modification of that.
Okay, I just want to follow up on something you said. You said you do not identify as an alcoholic. You did suffer a conviction for DUI.
Yeah.
Could you please explain to us, I guess, your history of drinking, and do you still currently drink? Do you plan on drinking?
I don't drink because it's in my probation condition that I am not able to drink. So I haven't drank since prior to my probation starting. And I can't tell you the exact date, but somewhere within a few weeks within my probation, maybe I had drank, and I don't know which day it would be. My pattern of drinking, sometimes I drink if I go like to a family gathering or something, or like a holiday or something, and sometimes I don't. It depends on how I feel. That night I wanted to drink because I was just feeling crappy, and I did, but I don't always. Sometimes I do.
Have you ever had any prior problems with alcohol?
No.
Ever experienced any binge drinking or anything to that effect?
No.
Okay. And you're saying that you believe you haven't drank within a few weeks of your probation, which began in 2017?
Yeah, I may have had a glass of wine like a few weeks before, but I don't, maybe it was more than that, maybe it was less. I don't know. I really don't keep track because I don't drink a lot.
Okay. It sounds like you have many stressful events occurring in your life, and how are you coping with those, and what mechanisms do you use to address those issues?
I'm currently in a prayer group, and I attend church weekly. I also walk now. I started walking 20 minutes like in between like times that I'm not working because I work a lot, and that is really helping me get my mind clear. I have a close family. My husband and I are very close. We're always together when we're not working, and I have a good group of women and men that I work with at work that all know and are aware of my conditions and my probation, and they're all rooting for me. I love what I do. I love my job. I realize that I almost lost my license. I just can't believe that. So I would never do anything to jeopardize that ever again.
Okay, a couple more questions. I understand that you had surgery and some complications from that and pain issues. Do you currently have to take any medications for that?
No, I'm currently on no medication. Yay. And I'm doing pain management, so I'm doing a lot better than what I was at that time. I do not have cancer. They're not cancerous at this time. The last time they did a check on my tumors in my spine, but they haven't changed, is what they told me. So at this time, everything is good. But I do get a lot of pain still. So, I do get a lot of pain.
What kind of pain management do you engage in?
Well, I go to the doctor and I do physical therapy, and I have a brace now that I wear, which I'm not wearing today, I wear it when I'm really bad. I do stretching exercises that help, and I also purchased a massage chair in my house. That helps.
So, a couple more questions. One of your requests is that you're asking to discontinue therapy. Would you be planning on continuing any sort of therapy or other type of therapy-related coping mechanism?
Well, actually, I do want to discontinue my therapy on record. I don't want my therapist to have to go through the work that I've put her through. She's been kind and she's done this for me. But I don't plan on actually discontinuing my therapy on my own. I plan on going, but we're going to limit it to once a month. We've talked about it and discussed it if the probation conditions are changed. Because I get a lot out of just going there and being able to discuss like issues and stuff. And I always feel up when I leave there. So I do like it a lot. I also do have the therapist that I work with, and we kind of like talk when we get like overwhelmed and stuff. And so we have each other to kind of like soothe ourselves and do some self-care. So we have each other there too.
What have you learned from this entire experience in the probationary terms that you've had to complete so far?
The value of my license and the responsibility I hold as a therapist. I just know that I just have to think before I do things. I can't just, well, let me think about it, and okay, well, I could just, I had better boundaries, a lot better boundaries, and realizing the value, basically, of what I have.
Okay, one more question. You're asking the board to cut your probation in half and reduce some significant probationary terms. What assurances can you give the board that no further misconduct would occur?
I can only give you my word that I will honor my word. I will never drink and drive again, ever. I know that if I do, I would be giving up what I've worked hard for, what I've paid thousands of dollars for, but what I love and what I value, what I do every day.
No further questions?
Okay, and I just wanted to make sure, the modifications you're requesting was the fluid testing at the discretion of the board. You want it reduced, right?
Yeah, I would like to get it off, but I don't have to do it.
Okay, I need to know exactly what you're requesting, because I've heard you request a few things, I heard him make a statement, so I need to really know exactly what you're requesting. So you would like the fluid testing removed?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And then your weekly therapy, you want it bi-weekly or removed?
I want it removed.
Okay. Well, my notes are verbatim, so that's what I'm saying. I have multiple requests here, so. Okay, so you want that completely removed, because I had written that you wanted bi-weekly with the possibility of phone sessions.
That was another person.
Oh, I'm in the wrong notes. Ah, okay. Oh, that's why. Okay, it cut and pasted the wrong portion. Okay, never mind. I apologize to everybody. My computer's going crazy on me here. Okay, so you're asking to modify so you no longer need to go to AA meetings, no longer need to do therapy, and no longer need to call in and do fluid testing.
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. So we will start with board questions to my left this time. Okay. I usually always go in one direction, but I was instructed that sometimes this board prefers to switch sides. So we're starting here, unless you'd like to go to the other side. Okay.
Leah Brew, LPCC member. Just two questions. In general, how frequently do you drink? You said what occasions that would happen, but is that monthly, weekly, and then also what volume? Would it be 1 glass, 2 glasses in an hour?
I wouldn't even say monthly. It could be, it just depends on the month. And when I drink, I normally drink 2 glasses of wine.
Over how much time?
A few hours.
Okay. Thank you. And then the other thing that just really stood out to me is, as you said, you spent lots of money to become a therapist and you love the work that you do. And the 2 times that you've been to therapy, you were required to do so, one at urgency or request, not urgency, as at the request of your school, and now because of probation. And could you speak to that?
Even though I was required, and it's funny because I do work with mandated clients, and mandated clients that come in, some of them are completely resistant, some of them are open, and they learn a lot. I was open both times. I just want to grow as a person, so that's why going through this probation, I look back and I don't feel like, oh, this was horrible. I grew in everything, even the AA meetings that I couldn't identify. I found something in every meeting I went home with. And I would call my husband and tell him, like, this is so hard, but this happened. And, so I have grown through each of it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Christina Wong, LCSW member. I just want to kind of check in with you about, about your attitude and your feeling about, BBS putting you on probation. So can you describe that, more about the emotions part of it?
Well, it's hard. And it's humiliating. It's embarrassing. But I do understand the necessity of it. I do understand that it has taught me to value immensely my license and what I have. And to also see the responsibility that I hold, that I need to be at a higher level, and I need to make better choices than, I did. So.
Do you feel any, say, like resentment or, negative, emotions towards the board that put you through all these things?
Not towards the board, more towards the situation. I feel like, I wish I could just go back in time, of course. There's some resentment, like why, but just like that natural resentment kind of feeling, not towards the board, but towards just the situation. Like when I have to I was in DC, New York, I'm sorry. My son graduated from law school and I traveled and it was in a snowstorm and I had to drive, I went into New Hampshire and I had to drive and I was in a snowstorm and I was anxious and all this stuff. You know what I was anxious mostly about? Was pay testing. I knew I had to call in the morning and I might not even make this hearing thing that I was supposed to go to see my son, be sworn in to the New York bar and I was so proud and all that, but all this anxiety over that. So I get this frustration and resentment because it's so hard, but it's not really towards the board, it's just towards the situation.
Okay. So, so how do you manage, that is a very wonderful example that you talked about, that, the stress coming from, the requirement for the board to ask you to test and, and the pressure, that you have to do it. So how do you monitor yourself and, make it okay for you to handle that anxiety, if that's the word or
Sure.
the stress?
Well, a lot of it is just reminding myself, and my husband likes to remind me too, that you're here because of what you did. And you'll get through it. So,
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Peter Chiu, public member, and thank you for being here. You mentioned earlier you drank the time you got into DUI because you were feeling crappy. What if you're feeling crappy again? What are you going to do?
Well, what I do is, obviously I don't drink because I'm on probation. What would I do when I'm not on probation? Well, I never really was one to drink because I felt crappy, which is like, and I hear I'm saying that I did, but to be honest with you, my back was hurting. And I'm just taking better care of myself and managing my pain. I've learned to like do some certain exercises that help me with my pain. I guess it would probably be to just remember what the consequences of it was. I'm not going to say that I wouldn't drink because drinking isn't like something that I do or don't do based on like feelings. But that night was a poor decision. So I think just realizing that you just can't make poor decisions. I can't make a poor decision because I have to hold a higher standard. And I just keep remembering that.
I guess I want to be more specific than, just remember that, just like what kind of plan you have in place. Let's say you're totally off probation and you're on your own. I mean, what kind of assurance to yourself that similar situation, that's you got tremendous pain and you're feeling bad, things are not going right, and what support system you have, what strategy you're going to have to deal with that situation?
Sure. Well, it would be my family. It would be just like my support system is my family and my husband and my daughter. Like I go home, my daughter's in college, and we all have a good relationship with each other. It would be also, I would just say that my faith has been a big, there's been a big change in my faith since this has all happened. I had very strong faith, and I just kind of like stopped attending my church and just kind of like stopped doing all that when I went through college because I was so busy studying, and it was a process for me to come back to that faith, but it was something that I've really held on to recently in the last year and a half. And I started attending regularly church again, and I'm involved in a prayer ministry there. And I find a lot of my self-fulfillment there, and I'm not, so I would probably go to prayer or to my support group and the people that I have in my life, I would say.
Thank you.
Anything?
Hi, Christine Whitlisbach, public member.
Hi.
I just want to say that I know that chronic pain is very, very difficult to deal with, and I commend you for doing it the way you're doing it. It's tough. My question revolves around that. You had said earlier that, I think I understood you said like right around the time of your initial surgery, they wanted to give you pain medications and you were vegan, so you said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Well, it wasn't because I was a vegan, it's because I don't take pain medication. I don't want to take pain medication because I've seen people in my field being addicted to pain medication, and that just the idea of it, just don't like it.
Well, you just answered my question.
I'm Jonathan Maddox. I'm MFT member. So I just have one or two questions. So for all practical intents and purposes, if we grant your request of no AA meetings, no therapy, no fluid testing, then we would really have sort of retracted the teeth that are in your probation sort of status. And so there really would be nothing that the board is overseeing you with other than trusting that you are going to do what it is that you say that you will do. So beyond, and I don't want to say you described it as white knuckling, but you sort of committed to, I'm not going to do this again. What sort of other practical sort of activities will you be engaging in to sort of take care of yourself so that when the threat of busyness or anxiety or any other just life happenings happen, that you'll be able to take care of yourself and make a healthy decision? And I know you've mentioned your family and your faith. Are there other things or other relationships that exist for you, supports?
I get really busy because I work in a community health, and I have a lot of clients, and so I have a lot of notes that I have to write in documentation on, and it spills into my weekends. So I get really busy. So I'm finding that what's been helping with me with that anxiety of trying to get my work done and feeling like I'm overworked and just putting clear boundaries on what my time and stuff, I found what's working for me is stopping and taking walks and listening to music and just getting away from stuff for a while so I can just think and get clear so that anxiety is not building up. So that's been helping a lot for me.
Okay, so self-care has been really beneficial.
Yes.
And forgive me if someone's already asked, have you decided whether or not once you're off probation, whether or not you will continue to have a relationship with alcohol?
So I don't feel like I have a relationship with alcohol because it's not something that I love or hate, or it's more something that I've known in my life as something that we kind of do socially. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't do it. And that night I just felt like having some wine, and it was a really bad decision. So.
And this is the last question. What plan do you have if in the future you are on medication that may interact negatively with alcohol and you're in an environment where that's a possibility? So what sort of safeguards do you have or have you discussed with your support system to ensure that this doesn't happen again? Because I'm assuming you knew that the medication you were taking and alcohol would have an adverse sort of reaction toward another?
Yeah, it did. It made me feel sick. I didn't know it was going to do that. I really wasn't being responsible or thinking about it because I hadn't been on the medication long. Sure. And I am not on any medication, and I don't take any medication now. They had given me some gabapentin at the time, and it was really, it affected me in a negative way. So, yeah, I don't take medication. The strongest medication I take is ibuprofen 800, and I reserve it for times that I'm in like really bad pain.
Okay. So my question still would be, because none of us have a crystal ball, if for whatever reason
Sure.
that's something that is a necessity for you, what sort of plan do you have to ensure that those two activities don't collude again?
Well, I don't take medication, so I wouldn't interact, number one.
I'm aware of that, but because we don't have a crystal ball, I don't know, you don't know what's going to happen to you in a year. I don't know either, but if you did have to take medication for whatever reason, what would be your plan to ensure that you don't take medication and drink again?
Well, so I took medication for a very short time during that time, and I don't take medication anymore or plan to. So, I mean, if it came down to where like the doctor's like, you have to take medication because your cells are dividing and guess what? You got cancer and we got to do something, whatever. I would be aware of how that would affect drinking because of the experience that I've been through, because of this last year and a half and how difficult it's been for me. And also because I know that the responsibility I have as a licensed marriage and family therapist, that I have to be aware of the way things are going to be affecting my body, and I have to be aware at all times when I drive a car that I'm cognitively able to drive that car, and I need to never do what I did again.
Thank you. No further questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Lam, LCSW member. Are you having any transference issues with your mandated clients, and if so, how are you dealing with it?
That's a good question, and it is something that actually I have talked about with my therapist. I'm learning to, at the time that I feel like, I think it's just clear boundaries. I have to have really good boundaries in what I do and know that I'm working with them and not with myself. So it's kind of like looking at myself and saying, this is not about me. What are they going through? And so it's doing some self-talk and just keeping clear boundaries with my clients. And it is something that actually I've discussed with my therapist and my supervisor.
Okay, any other board questions? Anybody? Okay, any additional cross-examination?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, would you like to make any closing?
We'll submit, Your Honor.
Okay, then this matter is submitted and I just need a page count. Okay. Okay, and I'll ask again, does anybody need a break or did you want to go into the next one? Okay, we'll take a 5 to 10 minute break.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thanks.
You know, we'll